Hello VC, and welcome to the fourth part of my top 25 albums, and this time it's heavy metal, and these are strictly in the alphabetical order. One of the rules that I had for this one was just to choose one album per artist, and finding my favorite from several bands was surprisingly easy, and this one doesn't surprise anybody. This is AC/DC Powerage, released in 1978. As I've told you before, this is my favorite AC/DC album. But with this next one, I was really struggling. I was really like that. I almost couldn't choose between two albums. This is Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation, released in 1987. I was really struggling with this and Toys in the Attic, as both are my firm favorites. But in the end, I decided to go with this one. And I don't really even know why I chose this one. But yeah, I could have gone with either one, but I chose with Permanent Vacation. Great album. And one of the rules that I was going to use for this one was that I couldn't choose album that had been released less than a year ago, or one that I have had less than a year, because when you have a new album you probably feel like a bit too overexcited to watch it. And with this one I definitely feel overexcited. This is Arm Unchained, Symbol of Salvation. This one has proved to be like way better than anything that I could have possibly expected. It's just stunningly fantastic album. Absolutely love this album, which is a bit surprising considering that to me at least the drumming here is leaning kind of strongly towards thrash metal, and I'm not a thrash metal fan. But yeah, this is just absolutely stunningly fantastic album, and at least for now I have to say that this is like the best heavy metal album that I have bought at least in the last 3 years or more. Yeah, Symbol of Salvation, released in 1991. Next one probably doesn't surprise anybody. This is Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. As I've said many times, I prefer the Ronnie James Dio era of Black Sabbath. But it wasn't an obvious choice right from the start. I did consider Mob Rules as well, but in the end I decided to go with this one. And next one probably surprises some of you. This is Bon Jovi, New Jersey, released in 1988. Did I mention that Heaven and Hell was released in 1980? Anyway, I've always loved Bon Jovi, these early records, 84, 95 period, and although Slippery was my early favorite, this one overtook quite soon, because basically the thing that I love most in music is the basic simple rock and roll, and this one is less synthesizer sounding album. This has got a bit more rootsier sound, guitars are a bit more up front, drums a bit more louder. This is great Bon Jovi album. Next one again was very easy to choose. There's simply no competition for this one at all. This is Deep Purple, Burn. Easily my favorite Deep Purple album. But this wasn't originally my favorite Deep Purple album. My first Deep Purple favorite album was Come Taste the Band. But ever since I've got into this one, it's been my favorite with no competition. This next one was actually, to me personally, the most surprising album that I chose into this list, because prior to me making this list, if somebody would have asked if this band or this album is among my favorites, I would have said no, it's not. But when I started making this list, at first when I started making this list, I simply just sat down, I took a piece of paper and wrote down album names that I would choose into this, and the idea was that I write everything down and then just whittle down the list. And this album was one that when in the end I had to whittled down the list from 30 to 25. So I had like choose 5 albums that I would keep and 5 albums that I would lose. This was the first one that I chose to stay in the list. This is Def Leppard, High and Dry, released in 1981. So yeah, most obviously I feel much more strongly towards this album than I would have guessed prior to making this list. Next one, classic. When was the last time that you listened to this one? Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, released in 1987. Yeah, most of these songs are overplayed on the radio, but when you listen to this as an album, you will remember why this was such a magnificent thing when it was released. Yeah, fabulous thing. Again, this one has been my favorite and my true introduction to Iron Maiden. I had heard Peace of Mind earlier, but this was my true introduction. The Number of the Beast, released in 1982. Yeah, basically all first 5 albums could have been here, but in the end I had no trouble choosing this one as my favorite. And again, the next one, there was a bit of a struggle with the next one, but yeah, it wasn't in the end, it wasn't difficult to choose. This is Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance, released in 1982. I was considering for a while that should I choose Sad Wings of Destiny, but yeah, in the end this was sort of easy thing to choose. Although I do have to mention that this really isn't my favorite one. This is my favorite from the studio albums. Unleashed in the East is my favorite Judas Priest album, but that one was already in the live albums. And the next one, again, this was in a way this was pointless because I could have chosen any album from their first 10 years, but I chose to go with Creatures of the Night, released in 1982. Yeah, I love all Kiss albums from Kiss to Animalize, and I did even consider choosing Animalize for this one, but yeah, in the end I decided to go with Creatures of the Night. Okay. Next one was also one that I did have to consider slightly whether I would choose this one. This is Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction. For a very, very long time my favorite was So Far, So Good, So What album. But this one has overtaken its place. But I was still considering should I choose the other one, So Far So Good, because it's got a bit more raw sounding. It's not so, how should I say it? It's not so streamlined as this one. This one has done with the excellent precision. So in a way they are sort of like two different animals. But yeah, I chose to go with this one, possibly because my possible very favorite Megadeth song is here. This is Skin of My Teeth. Oh yeah, this released in 1992. I have to say that, well, we'll see in the end if it is, but I think that this is the most recent release of all of my favorites on this list, because all the others are older ones. Okay, the next one, again with this one, there was a slight struggle with the predecessor of this album, but in the end it was easy to choose this one. Metallica, Master of Puppets, released in 1986. Yeah, I was slightly considering Ride the Lightning, but yeah, it was easy to choose this one. And then Motorhead, Another Perfect Day, released in 1983. Always been my favorite Motorhead album. Yeah, I've always loved this one. It's easily my favorite. I wouldn't say that this is far above several other Motorhead albums, but yeah, this is the one that I love the most. Then again, I could have chosen any of the first 3 albums from this band, but I decided to go with their second album. This is Mötley Crüe, Shout at the Devil, released in 1983. Then again, this one was slightly surprising, but surprising to me, but from his albums that I have, this was my favorite. Ted Nugent, Weekend Warriors, released in 1978. Just fantastic album from Nugent. Okay. Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon, released in 1983. Again, this one has always been my favorite Ozzy Osbourne solo album. Some years later, when I got the Randy Rhoads tribute, there was a while when I was like that was my favorite, but sometime later this one reclaimed its space, and ever since then this one has always been my favorite Ozzy Osbourne album. And this next band I was really slow to warm up to. I mean, it took like decades from first getting to know them until I really warmed up to them. This is Queensryche, The Warning, released in 1984, their first full-length album. Not to mention the fabulous cover art. This is just, yeah, very strong album. What's next? Yeah, the next one was also one of the surprises, because for many years I didn't have any favorite albums from this band, because I loved and still do love all of their albums. But some years ago this just started, how should I say, started going up in my appreciation, even though I've always loved this album. Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll, released in 1978. Yeah, just fantastic album. I listened to this one just a few days ago, and it was just stunningly fantastic. Yeah, I heard from the radio, Gates of Babylon, really surprising song to be played on the radio, but yeah, I had to pull this one out and listen to it. Fantastic record. And next one was one, again, with this one I was really struggling. I had 2 different choices, and I was really struggling that which one I'm going to choose. But in the end I chose this one. This is David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. And I was struggling with Van Halen. This one released in 1986. Van Halen's Women and Children First. I was really going to choose between those 2, and well, in the end I just decided to go with this one. His solo debut from 1986, just, yeah, brilliant album, just as his Women and Children First are. But yeah, again, I can't really say the reason that why I chose this one. And another thing maybe I should mention, that I prefer Eat 'Em and Smile to Sonrisa Salvaje, the Spanish version. Okay. And this next one, Scorpions, Love at First Sting, released in 1984. You probably can't tell, but there's quite a bit of water damage here on this album, and usually I don't like that kind of thing, but with this album, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just that this is my copy, because back in the 80s I did buy an upgrade copy for this one, but in the end I chose to keep my water damaged copy, because it just felt that this is my copy. I did take the inner sleeve from the upgrade copy, because this one doesn't have water damage, and also to my older copy, compared to my older copy, the faces here are a bit more visible here. They are not so much darkened as they were in my original copy. Yeah, again, with this next band, I had to struggle quite a bit. I had several albums that I was considering to choose for this one, but in the end, this one, well, this one became chosen. Thin Lizzy, Black Rose, released in 1979. Yeah, I don't really know why I chose this one, because I could have chosen several other Thin Lizzy albums. In the end, it was either this one or Fighting, but even with like Bad Reputation or Live and Dangerous, Live, Renegade, I could have chosen several albums, but in the end I decided to go with Black Rose. And then next one, Triumph, Just a Game, released in 1979. Again, Triumph has several really great albums, but this one was one of the easy ones to choose, my favorite. And Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry, released in 1984. Again, I could have chosen You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, but yeah, it wasn't a difficult choice to go with the Stay Hungry. And then, again, this one was a bit surprising, because I love all Whitesnake albums from Trouble to Slide It In, but yeah, I really didn't have any problems in choosing this one. This is Slide It In, released in 1984, and I have to point out that this is the British mix. I prefer the British mix way better than the US mix. Yeah, easy choice, even though I really love all of the albums from Trouble to this one, but still, this is my favorite one. Okay, that was the list, and hope you liked it. Hope you have comments to make. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.